Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the first meeting of the new year. Happy 2022, all of you. Hope you all had a good holiday season. We have a rather involved agenda tonight. We'll try to move through it very quickly. If you will, at this time, stand and join me in a moment of silent meditation. I will follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will remind you that this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. And that was more for the council than it was the audience. This is the appointed time for any citizen to address the Asheboro City Council on any items of city business. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on any item of city business or concern that is not on tonight's agenda?
Mr. Wright does, Mayor.
Mr. Wright, come on up. Introduce yourself and, if you will, is there a sheet up here to sign?
Okay.
There is.
Good evening. For the ones of you that don't know me, my name is Donnie Wright. I live at 956 Rockcliffe Terrace here in Asheboro. And I am a retired lieutenant with the Asheboro Police Department with 30 years of service. And I want to thank you for letting me be able to come before you tonight with a request that I count as being very important. And that request is for you to consider reducing the speed limit from 35 to 25 on Rockcliffe Terrace. For the ones of you that are not familiar with Rockcliffe Terrace, it's the last city off of Zoo Parkway before you go out of the city on Zoo Parkway. When you come off of Zoo Parkway, you go up a steep incline. When you get to the top, it makes a curve to the left. And then there's a straight stretch. It's 3/10 of a mile long, straight as an arrow. And we have a lot of people that use that as a speedway. I had Chief Limbury bring down a box to put on a pole, but he put it on the wrong spot. I mean, he put it where you make the turn. He didn't get down where the speeding really happens. Rockcliffe Terrace has 35 houses on our street with approximately 13 school-age children or younger. And these children play in their yard and they get out into the street. Not everybody that comes down that street is speeding, but we have some young folks that come down just out of curiosity in Mustangs and Camaros with, souped up cars. And I would request that this be changed to a 25 zone. If you see fit to change it, I'll get with maybe the mayor, Mr. Ogburn, get with Chief Lineberry, maybe have a city police car to come down. Maybe not write tickets, but write warnings to let them know that this has been changed. Rockcliffe Terrace is 20 feet wide. It does not have a curb and guttering with it. It's hard to meet another vehicle on that street. It's especially if you're meeting a truck. Now, I drive a extended cab truck, and if you meet another truck that size, you just have to slow down, go off into the grass to meet it. Sometimes cars park on the street. Half the cars on the grass, half is on the road. And sometimes it's hard to maneuver around that when you're meeting someone. I asked members of the council to take my request into consideration and please reduce the speed limit to 25. We have 12 retirees, senior citizens living on that street, and they get out and walk in the evening for exercise. We have mothers with babies, they get out and walk in strollers. And some people do not have the courtesy of slowing down when these people are out there. Some people on the Rock Cliffs Terrace has asked me to do something about it. Well, that's the only thing I can do is come before the council, which I'm doing tonight. If you are not familiar with Rock Cliff, I asked that maybe you could drive down and come down the street, and I believe you'll see what I'm talking about. Like I say again, I would please ask you to take my request under consideration and reduce the speed limit to 25.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. Our process for that would be that we can ask Mr. Ogburn to have staff, the traffic and engineering people look at it and give us a recommendation, and we can probably address that at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to address the council? Okay, hearing none, I will close the public comment period and ask former Councilwoman Katie Snuggs to come to the front, please. Last month, when we seated our new council and we said adios to Councilwoman Carter, Ms. Snuggs was under the weather and was not able to be here, so we wanted to make sure that we gave her the proper send-off. Disappointing as it is, I will tell you that one of my great privileges as mayor was being able to seat you at this council table when we appointed you to fill a term, and then 2 years later when you were reelected or elected to that seat for another 4 years. And for me to be able to get to know you and call you a good friend, and you are a sweetheart, and you look after everybody in town, and I appreciate all you've done for me personally. We have a resolution honoring Katie L. Snuggs that was signed by the whole council. And it is whereas Katie L. Snuggs has served as a member of the city council for 6 years, and during this time she has given generously and unselfishly of her time and efforts in a dignified, faithful, and business-like manner. Absolutely. Whereas the city council of the city of Asheboro, North Carolina, desires to express commendation and appreciation for the untiring and valuable service rendered to the city by Katie L. Snuggs as a member of the city council. Now therefore be it resolved that the city council of the city of Asheboro extends to Katie L. Snuggs the city council's humble expression of its esteem for her in serving the city faithfully and well, and its best wishes for good health, success, prosperity, and for many years to come. And be it further resolved that the city clerk is hereby authorized and instructed to spread a copy of this resolution upon the city records and to transmit a copy thereof to Katie L. Snuggs, adopted this 9th day of December 2021, signed by all the council. Katie, we miss you already. You did a wonderful job as a councilwoman representing everybody in the city of Asheboro, and I personally love you and appreciate you. acknowledgement and appreciation, and if you will permit me, I will try to read this. Whereas Katie Snow served on the Asheboro City Council for 6 years and was an employee with the city of Asheboro for 22 years. They called her Mama Katie. Whereas Katie Snow serves on the Asheboro Redevelopment Commission, and whereas Katie Snow serves on the board of directors of Eastside Homes as a member of the Habitat for Humanity, Eastern Star, and numerous others in the community. Now therefore, the 9th day of December in the year 2021, Representative Pat Haley extends acknowledgement and appreciation to Katie L. Snow. And she is disappointed she could not be here tonight to present you this personally, but she is very proud of you also, and you know, y'all, she does a lot for this city, and she has enjoyed it. So, that, now, one more thing.
Just like Christmas.
All right. Now, I'm gonna let you unpack this. This is a token of our appreciation, a little gift from the council. We should unwrap this before we did. I got the paper, you get the joke. There you go. All right, let's unpack this.
They're not running away with it. You want to say something?
I hope I don't start crying, I'm a crybaby. But anyway, I enjoyed the 6 years that I served on the Asheboro City Council, and it was a joy to serve and also to serve the citizens and the community of Asheboro. And I'm gonna miss it, but I'm gonna be here every Thursday night, first of the month, I'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Trevor. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call Mr. Robert Wilson, partner with Nelson Mullins Law Firm, who has a presentation to make to the city regarding third-party beneficiary under the Asset Purchase Agreement of American Health Care Systems.
Good evening, Mayor Smith, members of the council. I have had the pleasure of working with now the former operator of Randolph Health for about 27 years, and this may be my last public act on their behalf as we wind up the bankruptcy. At this point in time, we have completed the sale of the hospital, as you probably know, to American Healthcare Systems. And often in a transaction like this, there is a charitable foundation that is left to act as the enforcer of the asset purchase agreement and any covenants and agreements that are contained in the asset purchase agreement. In this instance, all of the assets of the hospital, as it was previously configured, are devoted to the completion of the bankruptcy process, and the existing Randolph Health Community Foundation has determined that it will dissolve. There is no entity remaining in the connection with the hospital to act as an overseer of American Healthcare Systems over the next 10 years to assure that AHS continues to perform the asset purchase agreement and operate the hospital as required by the agreement. So as a matter of responsibility to the citizens of the community, the former operator of the hospital negotiated this opportunity for a third-party beneficiary to act, since no other entity will remain to enforce the purchase agreement. And we are here today to request that the city of Asheboro take on that responsibility, since there's no other charitable entity to act in that capacity. What is a third-party beneficiary? Really, it's, as you may know, a third-party beneficiary is simply a person or entity that's not a direct party to a contract, but stands to benefit from the contract's performance. And of course, we believe that the city of Asheboro, the county, Randolph, and everyone in the community at large is benefiting by having the hospital remain open and operating under the performance of American healthcare system. So with that, and without a natural fit for a third-party beneficiary designee, we're here requesting that the city of Asheboro undertake that role for the purpose of assuring that AHS continues to perform its obligations under the asset purchase agreement. I'll be happy to answer any questions that the council may have about any of the details relating to this.
I'm sorry. Mr. Wilson, you may want to explain to the council why the county of Randolph can't do it.
Well,
the loan and
the Randolph County was not able to act in this capacity because it is a party to the transaction, in the sense that it has borrowed money under the program authorized by the legislature to assist the operator in moving forward with the operation of the hospital. So they have essentially a conflict of interest in that sense.
Mr. Wilson, I assume within the duties and rights of this role you're proposing, that there's entitled the city, I guess, with the duty and the opportunity or right to pursue remedy should any discrepancy occur. Hopefully not, but should do so. That's incorporated.
That's correct. I would also mention, Mr. Moffitt, that the Attorney General of North Carolina has an interest in the performance of this agreement and would be a partner in the process of assuring performance if and when it was needed.
Any other questions for Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wilson, we as a body have not discussed this. John and I had numerous conversations about it, and this is the appropriate time for us to get a consensus and direct staff to investigate and draw up a contract if that's what is needed to do to act in this capacity. So I will ask the council if there are, on the face of the request, are there any objections?
Mr. Mayor, can I ask?
Yes.
Is there an instrument that you have specifically in mind for the city to execute?
Well, the asset purchase agreement has a provision in it in which the third-party beneficiary designation is listed, and the agreement is set up so that the city would join in the asset purchase agreement solely for the purpose of acting as third-party beneficiary. This agreement has already been approved by the United States Bankruptcy Court for the Middle District, and basically this is a blank, the last blank that needs to be filled into the existing agreement. And I can share that with you as well.
You're looking for a city official to execute that, some portion of that? I'm just curious.
Whatever obligates the city of Asheboro is who I would be looking for.
If, with your permission, thank you for a very helpful answer. Before a consensus is asked for, is it, other than just asking, is it consistent with the council's will for the staff to investigate further, I'm always, in my risk management role, I'm always a little nervous about giving an answer to something that, where there might be an execution going on of an instrument that could potentially lead to another party claiming there's some duty that the city failed to carry out and therefore have an avenue to try to make a claim against the city. So I'm not speaking negatively at this point about it. It's just a matter of, I would like to be able to see what we're talking about and render that back to you before we go much further in this, if that's the will of the council.
My understanding of what was being asked and what the mayor was referring to, that I could, categorically and philosophically, I can't imagine a, more independent or objective entity other than the city of Asheboro that would have the highest and best interest in its full execution or remedy, should that come up. I think it would be more than appropriate to review the document, be sure somewhere along there, we didn't see cosign.
It says what we think it says.
But, yeah.
And that's not a reflection of Mr. Wilson at all. It's just my
And
cautiousness about
that was my
things.
request to the council. And also, if you guys are all on board with pursuing, having staff research this, approve the document, make whatever recommendation that professional staff comes up with to us to address at the next meeting. Fair enough?
Yes, sir. As long as I'm authorized to look at it by you, I'm happy to do so.
So, we will proceed under that scenario.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you very much.
And once again, let me tell you, I appreciate the 2 or 4 years of real tedious work that has brought us to this point. You and the team have really done yeoman's job, and
Thank you.
some of us were involved in a little bit of that, and want you to know how much we appreciate you sticking with it.
Thank you. Appreciate that very
you.
much.
Mayor, before we leave, I would like to thank the folks at American Healthcare. Santa Claus came on Christmas morning, but my brother had to be hospitalized, so I was glad it was here. So the effort, you and your team and everybody at Randolph Health and now American Healthcare, we sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. It's an asset to the community that we wanted to save.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will add one comment to that. John and I were recently in a meeting with the new administration up there, and they said that they told us right up front that their census numbers were improving quite drastically, that they're on the right track. The census, daily census numbers are improving, so we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that long-term we can continue to have local healthcare, hospital healthcare. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Wilson, I know Mr. Ogburn has had email with you. I'll get in contact with you with contact information. Okay.
Deputy Chief Cochran, come on in, sir.
I understand.
Chief Cochran has an announcement to make regarding Asheboro Fire.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. We're just coming before y'all tonight to let you know that the fire department has earned their heavy rescue certification. A couple of years ago, somewhere in the time, purchased a rescue truck that we were using. We got that graciously by the council approving that for us. Then we had to start our training for our members to get that. And that was approximately right around 6,000 hours for our members to get that man hours to earn that training. And we applied for our certification. It was back during the summer. It took a while with the pandemic and all that, and to get the member here to inspect the truck and the equipment that we had on it. And I think it was right around in the end of November that our certification come in. So we was just here tonight to notify you, Mr. Mayor, and the council that we are now certified heavy rescue. If you'll look at the board, we're eventually going to change over all of our lettering on our stuff. It'll be at Asheboro Fire and Rescue. Our members, our staff really worked hard. We're very dedicated to that training. We appointed one of our battalion chiefs to oversee that for us, Chief Powell, and he worked very diligently to get this certification for us, to make sure we had all the equipment and all the right pieces in the right places when the inspectors come to do that. We're very proud of everybody there that worked on it. It is a great benefit to the city. We do have that local rescue squad here that provided that, but they also provide coverage to the whole county. And so we had reviewed it, and we decided we'd like to try to get the approval for that for the city. But y'all, like I said, y'all did graciously do that. And so when you see the big truck, as we call it, riding up and down the road now, the city manager, he'll call me a lot of times when he sees it go by. The lettering will be changed on it, which we've already got that one done, and we'll gradually be working to change all of our, some of our logos to Asheboro Fire and Rescue. But I'll present you this certificate, Mr. Mayor, that we got. And like I said, we do to be able to do that. We do have a lot of dedicated firefighters and women there. They spend a lot of time, as y'all know. I know most of the time during council meeting, they'll be going by somewhere. Our call volume has still greatly increased.
We do think that's on purpose.
A lot of times we would say that it is, but the way we're running now, we've had one of our busiest years again. We're upwards, I think, closer to 5,000 calls. So a lot of times they're running anywhere from 15 to 25 calls a day, which when I was first hired 25 years ago, I think the first 3 days the truck didn't leave the building. You know, and now it's like you come out and the trucks are not in the building. And but they stay very busy, and we're very proud of everything that they do and the way that they serve the community.
Well, we're certainly proud of everything they do and all you do in leadership role down there, command staff. Does this go on our wall or his wall? His wall. Give it back to you. It is a certification from the North Carolina Association of Rescue and Emergency Medical Services Incorporated.
And Chief Sumber sent his regrets tonight, Mayor. He's under the weather, couldn't be here tonight. So we'll see.
And he, like I said, he did send the word that he wished he could have been here, but he's still under the weather and just err on the side of a little precaution. And like I said, we do appreciate all the support that y'all do provide us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I believe John McGloin will be proud.
Yep, he sure is.
Okay, council, you have in your packet the consent agenda. Is there any item in the consent agenda that you would like to remove for individual discussion or consideration? And if not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Mayor, I move we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Birch. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Mr. Kemp, our HR Director, Human Resources Director Doug Kemp, you have a request to approve a resolution expressing the concurrence. Go ahead.
I do, Mayor, Council, thanks for taking the time. We just have, asking for approval to make 4 changes to the employee policy manual. They're what I would consider minor changes, but things that need to be done. One relates to the drug testing policy. One relates to the, an update to the special separation allowance for law enforcement officers. One is for to give the city manager authority to use the safety manual to quickly respond to any new OSHA regulations that come out without having to come through the council and ask for that permission. And then the last one is clarifying our name clearing policy for terminated or demoted employees. And I can answer any questions you might have.
And for the
And
new
you all
member,
have these changes in your packet.
and for our two new members, usually in January, we have a update. A lot of these are generally federal or state driven. We have to keep in compliance.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the majority of this is.
Any questions? Okay, I will ask for a motion to approve, this resolution by reference.
Mayor, I move we approve the resolution with concurrence of the Policies and Procedures Manual by reference.
Have a motion by Councilman Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Kelly Heath down there. Thank you, Ms. Heath. Huh?
I think it's Jane down on that.
Was it Jane?
It's okay.
I heard it from both sides. but
Stereo.
I thought I did anyway. Flip a coin. All right.
Doesn't matter.
Motion is by, Ms. Redding. Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Yeah,
Y'all have a
appreciate the
good
job you do for us.
Thank you.
Mr. Nuttall, item 9 on your, agenda. 9A is case number RZ-21-15. I will open a legislative hearing on an application seeking text amendments to the zoning and subdivision ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. This will be a combined public hearing to take the last action, hopefully, related to Senate Bill 300 and the decriminalization of local ordinances and codes, in this case particularly affecting most land use regulations. If you think back to November, both Mr. Sugg and I discussed in general terms ordinance amendments that would be coming as a result of this legislation. We began with city code amendments, and these are specific zoning and subdivision ordinance related amendments to bring us into compliance with that law. So you've heard a lot about this. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time unless you have various questions about this. But again, these are amendments to both the zoning ordinance and the subdivision related to that Senate bill. It's important to remember that the city will retain other enforcement action outside of a criminal offense for violations. Those include civil penalties, court injunctions, equitable remedies will still be available. And keep in mind, it's important, I think, for the public to keep in mind, this does not affect enforcement authority for unsafe buildings. There is still criminal penalties and can occur for violations of unsafe statutes. It does not affect either violations that are occurring within water supply reservoirs of the city or floodplain areas. So the city still has some specific remedies beyond the few I just mentioned in certain instances. But we, through this amendment, are doing three things. We're modifying certain language in Chapter 2, which is outlined up on the screen, certain language in Chapter 9, and the subdivision ordinance itself. So two separate ordinances, development-related ordinance impacted by this bill. In reviewing this proposal with the land development plan, we do think it's consistent with the goals of that plan. This went to the planning board in December in a very similar discussion. They also had some background information on the bill, as well as other code amendments that were being prepared in response to it. This does come to you with a positive recommendation from both the staff and the planning board. So there are, again, this is a combined public hearing, but if you would, we do need two separate motions, one related to these zoning ordinance text amendments. If you would take that matter first, take action, and then a second motion related to the subdivision ordinance amendments. And both need to consider consistency with the land development plan as part of your consideration. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Noble. Questions?
Jeff, we can combine the consistency statement.
Yes, for each ordinance you can combine.
Questions?
This is a good item to clean up something, really, to get the penalty to match the act.
All right. Moving on, we will, entertain a motion. Anybody?
Mayor, based on the consistency statement of the staff and the concurrence of the planning board, I move that we approve the consistency statement and the text amendments as it relates to the zoning, revisions.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? First motion is passed. Do I have a motion, is there a motion forthcoming for the subdivision code amendments?
Mayor, based on the consistency statement of staff and the recommendation of the planning board, I move that we approve the consistency statement and the amendments to the subdivision ordinance.
I have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Item 9B, I will open a legislative hearing on case number RZ-21-16. It's on an application for a zoning map amendment to rezone property located southeast of 801 Hub Morris Road.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a legislative matter before the council this evening. It is a request to rezone one Randolph County PIN from what is currently R10 and a small portion of R40 zoning to a conditional zoning R10 district, specifically to allow a manufactured / mobile home park per the site plan that has been submitted. Now, I am going to distribute the site plans. Give me 1 second. The applicant on this request is Mr. Corey Van Cannon on behalf of the property owner Van Cannon Fraser LLC. Again, this is property southeast of 801 Hub Morris Road. 801 Hub Morris Road is the current North Meadows manufactured home community. Again, a request to go from medium-density residential and a small portion of R40 low-density residential to a consistent R10 medium-density conditional zoning district to allow either an expansion or a new manufactured home park, depending on how you want to look at it. This is again, one county parcel number involved in this request, and we're looking at just over 44 acres in undeveloped property. As you look at the maps in the staff report, you may recognize that this was property that had been previously issued a special use permit for a place of assembly for the Catholic Church. That property has since been sold. As we look at the overview zoning of the area, you can see the subject parcel outlined in red. The yellow areas on the property are the current R10 zoning area. If you look to the southeast portion of the property, there you start to see a white color. That is the current R40 portion of this property. The dots on the property and surrounding properties represent that this is outside of the city's corporate limits, but within the city's extraterritorial planning jurisdiction. You can see the zoning of North Meadows and the roads serving North Meadows community to the north, also in an R40 conditional zoning designation. And surrounding the property within the city's jurisdiction is other R10 medium-density residential zoning. To the east is the city's wastewater treatment plant. It's been there a long time. Still bears a residential, low-density residential zoning classification. The area in white, without any stippling, is Randolph County zoning jurisdiction. And so that is land beyond the city's authority. We'll zoom in a little closer here. You can see some buildings. You can see specifically the development location of the city's treatment plant. You can see the stream that does almost bisect this property from north to south. See how the amount of frontage the property has on Hub Morris Road, and the adjoining property owners are identified on the map. This is the topographic and utilities map for the area. Again, you'll see the lay of the property and surrounding property, as well as the location of city utilities. There is an existing sewer main that does follow that drainage feature on the property to the wastewater treatment plant and carries wastewater from North Meadows community. There is a very small portion of 100-year regulated floodplain that does just clip the property on the southeastern edge. As we reviewed the site plan, there's really no impact of that regulated floodplain on the project. This is an aerial from a few years ago, but gives you an idea of the size of the parcel in relation to other development in the area. This is the updated site plan. This application was first scheduled for the planning board in December, was continued at that meeting for additional information to be researched and provided. Planning board reheard this at its meeting on January, and since that plan, there's been actually just some additional updates to this site plan. So this is the latest plan. It does show 188 proposed manufactured home lots. You will note that there is a dedicated entrance to Hub Morris that's proposed with this development. There are also two connections to the street network in North Meadows to provide the best traffic circulation possible for the residents. You also note there are areas designated on that plan labeled as parking. Those are actually overflow parking areas for either visitors or materials that the homeowners need a place to store on the property. So that is some additional information that has been provided by the applicant at staff's request. We have a few photos. This is a subject property looking east along Hub Morris Road. We're now looking west along Hub Morris Road. This is further west, looking west along Hub Morris. And another shot east down Hub Morris. This is a view of the adjoining North Meadow Manufactured Home Park. This is the primary entrance to North Meadow. This entrance also will provide at least some access into the new community via a connection that's proposed in the vicinity of the swimming pool that's shown on the site plan within the existing development. And then again, a view of the adjoining North Meadow community. In terms of staff's analysis on the request, again, this is outside the city limits, so any connection to city utilities will require compliance with city policies for that provision. In the case of connecting to both water and sewer, annexation is required under the city's policies. Hub Morris Road is a state-maintained major thoroughfare. Just recently, DOT returned comments to the city that have been shared with the applicant, indicating the need for a traffic study to be performed by the applicant and presented to DOT as a part of any driveway permitting approval. So that is one thing that would have to happen if the project zoning is approved here this evening. Again, the applicant and the site plan before you showing 188 lots. It is adjacent to North Meadows. That community contains 207 lots. The proposed community would be accessed both from the new entrance to Hub Morris Road, as well as 2 roadway connections to North Meadows. Of note, this development does propose a lesser front yard setback than North Meadows. This is a request for a conditional zoning district. The approval that North Meadows went through was a special use permit process. So under the city's development regulations, a property owner has the ability to either request a special use permit for approval of the park or a conditional zoning district. In this case, the applicant does present a conditional zoning application. It allows a project-specific zoning district to be proposed. That specific district establishes permitted uses. It establishes development conditions and any site development requirements that are part of that approval process. This is a process that does allow a project to diverge from what would ordinarily be predetermined city ordinance requirements. Under a special use permit process, which is the other option, the city outlines probably about 24 requirements that one must follow in order to be eligible for the special use permit. In a case of a conditional zoning district, that can inform the proposal, but the applicant is not bound to comply with those. They are allowed to submit a unique regulatory proposal, and that's what we have here this evening. On number 5, just described, keep in mind North Meadows went through a different process, a quasi-judicial process. This is a legislative decision here before the council. There are landscaping yards, buffering screens that are shown and including along Hub Morris Road and the southern property boundary. Those are at least the minimum that the city requires, and in fact, at least along Hub Morris, those likely are an addition in excess of what the city would typically require for a landscape street yard for a development. When you look at overall density, North Meadows does have more lots. The actual density of this proposal is greater than the North Meadows project. This is currently at 4.26 units per acre. Overall density of the adjoining community is 3.83 units. Number 8 identifies the intent of the R10 district as defined by the city zoning ordinance. And again, number 9, there is a small portion of regulated floodplain on the property. As we turn to the land development plan for guidance, it is designated for neighborhood residential, so medium density residential development. Somewhere on the order of 4 units per acre is what that plan calls for. It's a part of the Northeast Small Area Plan. And at the original adoption of the plan back in 2000, this was a long-range growth area. It was further from existing city limits and city services than it is today. So as we further delve into the land development plan to identify goals and policies that generally are in favor or less favorable to the request, we believe that there's 3 policies that support the request. There are those on the screen that may not be as supportive of the request. And as I frequently remind the council, these goals and policies don't have to be equal. Council can give more or less weight to any one of them based on your interpretation of that language. So we felt it was important to spend just a little bit of time describing where we believe this proposal deviates from what would be predetermined zoning requirements for a manufactured home park. So again, this is provided for informational purposes. The applicant is not bound, based on this process, to meet those special use permit requirements. But there are four that we identified as we have gone through this process. The first is, as I pointed out, this proposed density is greater than what you would expect to find in a proposal that went through a special use permit process. That's the special use permit requirement for stormwater management is very much interested in stormwater quantity controls. How are you managing the runoff that is generated from the development after the project is built and the construction is over? The site plan does indicate stormwater water quality structures. Typically, those are intended to provide some stormwater management, but also provide some water quality benefits. And while those are important, improving water quality should be a goal. When it comes to the special use permit requirement, it is focused primarily on water quantity. How are you controlling the quantity of runoff that's generated by the development? We have had discussions with the applicant on this issue. When we get to the conditions, you'll see that there are conditions that we think address several of these deviations if the project were to be approved. Lastly, in terms of the provision of recreation area, the provision of on-site management of the property, as well as recreational vehicle storage, the applicant is not proposing active recreation area on the subject parcel that's before you for rezoning. You will not see a management office, on-site management office on the subject parcel. What they are proposing is to rely on that recreation area and the on-site management of the existing adjacent park to provide and meet those needs for this development. There is recreational vehicle storage and area for storage to occur on the subject parcel. Maybe not to the amount that you would normally see, but there is, that is provided. As we consider conditions that we believe would be important to ensure consistency with the city's land development goals and policies per our adopted policies, we do propose the following conditions. This is staff attachment 2 in the report. Letter A, that the use shall be limited to a manufactured mobile home park. B, all parties involved in this request, including the owner, successors, and heirs, agree to the conditions and approved site plan. That goes hand in hand with the last condition that's proposed that would actually record a document to put these conditions in the chain of title for the property. If the district is approved, full construction civil drawings shall be submitted to the city for review. This is essentially a conceptual plan at this point. We haven't seen grading, we haven't seen details on utility layout, but we know that the utilities are there. It's not atypical that level of detailed information, it's not atypical for that to come later in a proposal. We have several D, E, and F, and G to some degree are, we believe, important as the project, should it be approved, builds out. And in order to ensure that we have adequate emergency service access, the ability to provide public services to the project, we have some conditions that stipulate when certain roadway connections would be looked for to ensure that that connectivity that we believe is important is provided if the project is being built in a phased manner. And so D, E, and F do that. G indicates that these connections with North Meadows in this proposal need to be available for cross-access in perpetuity. Technically, this parcel, this is a separate Randolph County PIN, separate property, under a separate corporate ownership than North Meadows. We believe it's important for a number of reasons that there be some mechanism that establishes a connection and ensures that relationship both for transportation, but as well as the management needs and as well as the recreational amenities that should be provided. Letter H talks about ensuring that adequate turnaround and emergency, turnaround for emergency public services be provided. Again, if a roadway is terminated part of the way through construction. The city staff would request that conditions pertaining streetlights be added to the district, stating that they would be installed and maintained by the owner prior to issuance of a zoning compliance permit in accordance with city policy for residential street lighting. Likewise, installation and maintenance of street signs shall be the responsibility of the property owner. K covers what our experience in these type of projects where we have a site plan, but the site plan may not have contemplated future, maybe accessory structures that potentially could be added. This is intended to allow a resident to add a carport or a structure that may not be shown on the site plan at a future date without rendering the district invalid. L, again, intended to facilitate emergency response. M is a condition, all homes shall be skirted. Several of these come out of the city's special use permit predetermined standard. So we did use that as part of our analysis of this request. And so these conditions are mirroring many of those requirements. And no parking shall be permitted on internal roadways. O covers several things that we'd be looking for if a district is approved prior to authorizing a permit for construction. The first being approval from the state Environmental Quality Office for soil and erosion sedimentation control. Two, obviously with DOT wanting to see a traffic study prior to their approval for access into the property, we will need to see that full approval prior to, and the city authorizing construction. Number three, as I mentioned, the stormwater question. This is a condition that ensures that the city's minimum stormwater requirements for quantity management be implemented with construction. Number four, we would ask that details ensure the functional equivalent of full-time or on-site or off-site property management be provided to the city. Again, there is no on-site office proposed for this parcel. It is being proposed to be provided via the adjoining community. We would ask for details providing that assurance that continues into the future. Number five, details ensuring residents likewise have continued use of those recreational amenities in North Meadows as they reside in the new community. P, prior to issuance of the permit for construction, that plans concerning water, fire hydrant, sewer mains to serve, and services to serve the property be provided. Those are details that frequently come later. Q is that requirement that should the district be approved, whatever conditions be attached to that district, that the owner sign and execute a memorandum of land use restriction that does get recorded in the public registry to get this district in the chain of title for the property. That's a lot of information. Try to break it down as we look at the final analysis. You know, it's important to remember that the current zoning district, which is largely R10, would allow medium density residential development without any public participation, without a public hearing. There could be R10, typical R10 conventional subdivision, either single family or two family development proposed and built on that property without the ability to go through this process and look at street connections and to look at the landscaping details and other issues. We also think it's important to remember that the site plan does propose higher density than we might typically see in a similar project that is going through the special use permit process. But this plan does provide a dedicated access to Hub Morris Road. It does provide two connections to North Meadows. Those are steps that the owner took in response to concerns that city staff raised. When we first saw this proposal, there was actually no new entrance to Hub Morris Road, and that meant we were potentially going to have upwards of 400 home sites with a single entrance, and that generates a lot of concerns, both for us as a service provider, but also for traffic distribution in the community. So we do think it's important to keep in mind that there has been efforts made to build a street network and build a second connection to Hub Morris that will facilitate this higher level of density on the property. We do think, again, we talked about the reliance on this application on existing North Meadows for its management, for its RV parking, recreational amenities. We think it's vital that those conditions be tied to any approval that may be given for the project, and to see to it that those stormwater requirements are included as well. So overall, staff's recommendation is to approve this application. This, as I said, went to the planning board for its full review on Monday. It also comes to you with a favorable recommendation. So after you listen to information from all parties, the consistency statement, as well as the rezoning request before you, will be your action items this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the other speakers.
Questions?
I've got a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So, just in going out and looking at the property and then reading in the packet about there being, the steep slopes greater than 20% under the higher density, I'm assuming that during the analysis of the stormwater runoff, are there special mitigation measures that the property owner has to do to account for those things?
And I'll let the design professional talk to that. My response is yes, that'll be a factor in to the construction plans, including any stormwater management that is proposed. But yeah, there are some grade issues on the property that will have to be dealt with. That is something that their professional engineer will be responsible for.
They won't be able to obtain a permit from DEQ without all that.
Any other questions? Okay. This is a hearing and public hearing, and I will ask the applicant to stand up and present your case.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, my name is Robert Will Hoyt, and I'm here with my partner Darren Allen of Will Hoyt Allen, 100 Sunset Avenue, Suite A in Asheboro, right down the street. We represent Van Cannon and Fraser in reference to this application for rezoning. The request is to rezone land that's adjacent to the North Meadows community on Hub Morris Road. This rezoning, as staff noted, is from R10 and from R40, a small sliver, to conditional zoning. It would be an R10 for a manufactured home park. The petitioners did mail letters to adjoining property owners, giving them notice. This rezoning is before the city. And the purpose of this adjacent rezoning petition is to give more affordable housing for our community. The city of Asheboro, in recent years, has earned a distinction as a model retirement community, and it follows a trend of seniors downsizing to quality, affordable manufactured homes upon retirement. And they also seek a retirement destination. The adjacent North Meadow community has long-term members, very, very little turnover. So that has prompted the acquisition of this adjacent property to try to provide a solution of housing for other families. We have a PowerPoint for the council that will provide a vision for this rezoning that's brought before you tonight. Oftentimes when people come before rezoning matters, and I represent a lot of towns and cities, people say, well, what are they going to do with that land? What are they going to do with it? Well, what's the unique feature about this rezoning that North Meadows community and this property that's being requested to be rezoned have the same owners? They have the same ownership.
And we've got a PowerPoint that hopefully will answer this question for you and also for members that are appearing, that are attending this hearing. I'd like to call Darren Allen now and ask him to commence with the PowerPoint.
Once again, my name is Darren Allen. I have, I'm going to try not to duplicate too much of what Trevor's addressed, but to show where this fits within kind of the larger layout of Asheboro, it's kind of in the northeastern corner of what used to be North Asheboro. And if you zoom in, you'll notice, just like Trevor mentioned, this is in the yellow area, so this is actually not within the city limits. It would need to be annexed if the board were to grant approval. The part that is highlighted there in red is North Meadows. The portion that's next to that is in purple. That is the wastewater treatment facility. And what is in the middle there with the blinking red dot, that is the site that's requested to be rezoned. And I think what's important is to consider kind of the general layout of this area. And this is another overhead view. You can get a better picture of what's located where on Hub Morris Road. But we also have some photographs from the area. Nearby, a little bit down the road to the, I believe it's to the west, southwest, is a solar treatment facility. You don't have a great view from this picture, but you can see it there. And there's also, in the same area, there's also another manufactured home community. You can see some of those parcels there. I think as we go along, setbacks may be an issue that is raised. You will note that there is not a substantial degree of setback between Hub Morris Road and this other mobile home community. I believe the next picture is it's another angle of the same area. And this is, I learned this on Monday, this is actually the old Bunkmeyer home place, which is across the street from the area that's requested to be rezoned. Now, as Mr. Wilhoit mentioned, this case is a little bit different because the applicant is actually owns the adjacent property and is essentially requesting to expand the operation, but in this case, that's going to require a different form of zoning. And I do have some photos. I think if you guys were to look at what is actually in the North Meadows community, it's very well run. I missed one picture here. If you zoom in, you can actually see there's also another mobile home community in the area. But talking about North Meadows, I only have 3 copies of this. If you guys don't mind sharing.
Senior citizen.
Thank you.
But North Meadows, North Meadows exceptionally, it's very clean, very well kept. You can see the fencing. I believe this special use permit was granted about 20 years ago. It's still in great shape and great condition. There are recreational facilities in North Meadows that would be available to the residents of the new community if you guys were to grant the application. And you can see the homes, they're just very well kept. It's very good, very clean looking community. We also have, just to get another kind of overview of what this area looks like, we also have some footage we'd like to play, so you guys can get a better view of what's.
This was a drone footage that was done during the month of December, and fortunately, it was a clear day.
And the community you see there, that actually is North Meadows.
Right.
Area behind that is the area that's requested to be rezoned. You really can't see it well from this angle, but that dip, well, you can't see it all now.
This comes along Hub Morris Road. It shows
That's
fencing.
Yeah, that's the recreational area for North Meadows. And you can see the fencing and the setbacks. One of the issues that's addressed is that the fact that North Meadows has a 175-foot setback, and what's included within that setback is the recreational area and on-site management.
It has a picnic area, soccer, basketball, picnic area. It's recently been repaved. There's an overhead view showing the recreation area, and that kind of explains the 175-foot setback. They do have a pool and they do have a management office there that they can address tenant needs.
And the expectation is that we would record easements granting access to the recreational area and.
Yes. We would work with the city attorney to make those a permanent documents recorded at the registry of deeds.
And you can see, every time I start saying it, it's just, in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the wastewater treatment facility. Even if this area were to be developed, there's still gonna be a buffer of some of the wooded area there on the left. And that's the nearby solar farm.
As you get a better overview, the North Meadows is contained there. This property is right there adjoining to it. And with the input from staff about the interconnectivity, it will allow various interests in there. Any permits of driveway access will have to go through DOT. Of course, that's the wastewater treatment plant. DOT has asked for a traffic study, a TIA. Mr. Marziano will touch upon that, and they will be driving that train as to any permits, driveway permits,
And
and road improvements.
one area of concern always for neighbors whenever new development coming in is the amount of it's gonna impact the flow of traffic. And unfortunately, we got the request very late for the traffic impact analysis. But as Trevor mentioned, no permits can be issued by DOT. No construction can be done. The rezoning application won't even be fully granted because of one of the conditions unless and until DOT actually grants those driveway permits.
This is a good viewpoint of the park, as you can observe immediately. It's well maintained. You don't see a lot of, like I'd say, sofas on the front porch. It is really a self-contained community. In fact, it's serviced by our cats. Members live there, and you'll notice the driveways are paved. They're not gravel, they're not dirt, they're paved. And this is an overview of the community there at North Meadows. There again shows the recreational areas and the correlation there to Hope Morris Road. I think you'll see very shortly, North Meadows has taken steps to do their own garbage. Purchase their truck, and there it is. And they service all the homes in that community. I think there are approximately 195 units there now. There's a new playground. It's well maintained. So when we're asking about this rezoning, there's a soccer field. This is kind of what these owners are saying. We'd like to do something right there beside of it. We plan on doing as well as this one is. And the wind was just perfect that day for this meeting. There's a subject property and the wastewater treatment plant in the back.
It gives you quite a perspective of the horizon of the world, doesn't it?
It does. Drones are amazing technology. And it really gives you a bird's eye view of what the project's gonna look like.
I don't know that you can capture a better picture of exactly how well maintained this community is.
We're about done.
I figured that.
So, currently, The parcel is, a large portion is R10, there's a small sliver that's R40. And as Trevor mentioned, even within the existing zoning framework, you could put probably 100 residences within that location without getting any sort of public input whatsoever. But the conditional district zoning process, I understand that's new for Asheboro, but that's something that's going to allow the board to more, council to more closely tailor this project to the needs of the community. The R10 is for, it's moderate intensity, and there's no concern here about the access to sewer services because the water treatment plant is just right next door, essentially. R40 is essentially downzoned from that, but the R40, which is nearby, is actually the wastewater treatment plant. Like I said, conditional district is going to allow more public participation in the process. Now, the proposed site plan, I'll show you a picture here. It's not a great view, but we'll be looking at different parts more closely. But in the north portion, this is North Meadows. That is R10 special use permit with substantially the same conditions minus the setback and the lot density and the on-site management recreation. The northern portion there is R10 special use permit. Southern portion, the City of Asheboro wastewater treatment, that is R40. And looking back, as Trevor mentioned, there was a lot of discussion back and forth between the city planning staff and the applicant in this case to try to really tailor this to the needs of the community. And so I'm going to address some of the points that were kind of that have been raised. One is the issue of traffic access. As you can see, there'd be two connections that would connect the new developed area to the northern Meadows community, and there'll additionally be the access point that would go onto Hub Morris Road. And that, the intention is that we'll actually have a security gate at that location. It'll be 25 foot across. Another question that's been raised was about the on-site recreation or management. You can see from as you saw from the drone footage and as you can see here, those recreational amenities would be very, they're very well kept and it would be, they'd be capable of serving the new community as well. The next question that's been raised is the issue of setbacks, and Northern Meadows has 175 because they also have the additional the recreational area. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, but I believe the actual required setback would be 30, and we're proposing in excess of that, up to 50. Along that area for the setbacks, there are plans where we will have shrubbery and fencing and a berm that will protect the sight lines and make it look as good as it can from the road. And I believe the intention was it's Yoshima evergreens and crepe myrtles. The evergreens will grow up to 50 feet, and I believe that'll provide good sight lines from the road. Bob, did you want to address it?
Yeah, in addressing community concerns, I believe the lots shown on the site plan are about 188. But as Hi Marziano, the engineer, will comment, due to certain steep areas, and I believe Ms. Kelly Heath noted that, there'll be substantial grading there. And he can comment on this, but normally when that happens, you lose lot numbers. You'll go down. The interconnectivity is important for staff and their vision of this because what it does, it gives different outlets for traffic, and it's not a one-way in, one-way out. Got other access. And as you look at the film and at the pictures, there are asphalt lot driveways, and that helps keep down dust and other problems for adjoining neighbors. Go to the next slide. Property will have security fence, landscaping, there'll be electronic gate, and of course, we noted that they're self-operated garbage service. They try to make themselves good neighbors, and hopefully, and with input, on DOT, that can happen. Thank you.
And we've got tonight, let's see, they
Go ahead, HR, he's been waiting. Go up there and speak. HR wants to address a couple of issues regarding,
I'm H.R. Gallimore with Remax Central Realty. Mr. Mayor, happy birthday, late. And council members, happy to be here. I'm going to speak directly. I'm going to try to stay in my lane tonight. I get out of my lane a lot, but my lane is about property values. And so I've got some statistics I think the council will find interesting. We pulled some statistical information, and in a 1 mile radius of this property in the last 6 months, there have been 35 residential homes sold. And they brought within 95% of asking price. Some of them brought more than asking price. You've heard that story, right? And they're on the market less than average of 20 days within 1 mile of this property. The reason I mention that, this mobile home community has been here. It's built by Darcy and Stanley Smith. I'm sure you guys know that back in the day. They did a nice job, and then I think it was sold later to another out-of-state company who did a marginal job, and then Ben Frazier and Corey got involved, and I think the drone shots and the photographs speak for themselves. So what do we hear when we're showing property? We go by this property all the time, showing property at Waterford Villas, the various other subdivisions over there. Jackson Run's a brand new one that's on fire right now. They're selling them as fast as they can build them. And I can tell you it's been a zero negative from property value. People drive by it, and frankly, I think they're a little amazed. I've had a few people want to drive through it. Haven't heard a negative comment yet. So, you know, we grew up in this area, all of us. And I would say there's a distinct difference between a trailer park and a mobile home community. And I would say in this case, I would call this a mobile home community. I'm amazed that they have the recreational facilities, that they have the their own trash pickup. You got that, don't you, Walker?
The city provides.
Okay, that's fine. But those are things you don't have to do. You know, sometimes you step out and you do some extra things. I said I'd stay in my lane. I think one thing that's going to be heard tonight, because we were here Monday night in zoning, in planning board, is about the traffic and the drive entrances. You know, the city needs the drive entrance. They're requesting it. And the applicant's happy to do that. But that brings in more complications with DOT, and you know, it's amazing. I've seen a lot of applications with a lot of conditions. We just about ran out of the alphabet on this one. And I believe, from what I understand in talking to the applicant, that and to the city staff, that the applicants agreed to all the conditions that they see here, which is pretty expansive. I think you guys will agree. But back in my lane, I lastly will say that our phones are ringing briskly for properties that don't exist. Now, we won't get paid. We won't get paid when Corey puts a mobile home unit in here and puts someone in a mobile home, not at our company. But what it does do in many cases, and I think it was touched on by Mr. Wilhoit, it frees up some other property. Some people sell their homes. They want to take the equity now. They're saying, you know, there's some great prices out there. I want to take advantage of that. They take that money, buy something cheaper. They want to travel. They want to put some money in their nest egg, and they want a safe and clean community to live in. And talking to Corey earlier, they're having to turn people away now because he's run out of options. So that's what's facilitated this request. And then lastly, I think we're all excited about the mega site. Those people are going to have to live somewhere. I hope it's going to be Randolph County. I hope it's not going to be Mebane, Southern Alamance, Guilford County, Chatham County. I want it to be in Randolph County. So we got all for the opportunity. Any questions? Oh, lastly, I'll check tonight, 29 properties residential for sale in this market with an Asheboro address, 29 residential.
And that compares to a normal number of 150 or more.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, it'd been 150, 180. Yeah, our office would have had over 100, just our office. Yeah.
And wrap this up, I'd like to call Hal Marziano, the engineer. Hello, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm Hiram Marziano. Corey contacted me to help him with a site plan, and he told me not to take more than an hour to go over this design. I think I can do it quicker than that. But basically, if this is approved, the plan will hopefully turn out pretty much the way it looks on the drawing. The comment about the grading and the slopes, the companion park, the existing North Meadows Manufactured Home Park, had a tremendous amount of grading on it when it was built. I've got some of the original plans, and I've looked at them, because I said, you know, they did a lot of dirt moving up here. I like to see dirt being moved. But in this case, we're gonna have to do the same thing. And the trick will be to blend it in and set the slope such that you can put a manufactured home on it. They can't go on a 20% slope. So that, if you notice the aerial, the drone, there were slopes there, if you could see the depth on the film, but they weren't 20%. They're probably 5-6% by the time we finish. So that's gonna be one key. The other key that needs to be, that's still unknown to the Von Cannons and Frasers, is the traffic. DOT office has requested a traffic impact analysis, and I don't do those. I know how, and that's why I don't do them. And we're gonna hire probably DMRP here, they did the Zooplex traffic analysis. And that will determine exactly what happens, whether we have to put more turn lanes in, widen the road, whatever. And hopefully won't take more than about maybe 2 or 3 months. The site's perfectly set up to be developed as shown, because it's right beside an existing park, which this will be the same ownership. We have the sewer trunk line running through the middle. We have water on Hub Morris Road. Haven't checked the pressures, but I'm pretty sure they're fine. It's it's taking pressure up to Randleman at 1,001 elevation, so we should be good. Don't see any problem with all that. So I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have on any technical issues. The stormwater retention, I meant to mention that. There supposedly was stormwater retention put on the original park when the original people developed it. Corey, I think, bought that, he and Ben Fraser. You saw a big pond beside the swimming pool. I think that was the stormwater retention. I don't know how it works. It doesn't have the proper gates or anything in it, so I don't think that's being managed. I think when we finish, we'll combine some management practices between the two parks that will work together. With regard to recreational facilities, there aren't any particularly planned on this, but we're going to have a 50-foot wide buffer along the creeks that go through the property. And they will be set up for some of the stormwater retention, not retention, but probably infiltration. And people can walk and travel on those. They're, some outdoor activities. That's just something I thought of tonight. So that's it in a nutshell for this point.
Questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. That concludes our presentation. I just want to make one comment. This development, if approved, will not happen overnight. It may be a 5 to 10 year process. And so first, the traffic study is going to take time, DOT approval is going to take time, stormwater drawings, working with staff. So this is not something that's going to be thrown up overnight. Thank you again.
Mr. Woodward, I have a question. Are there any questions of the presentation at all? I do have one question and a comment. From your aerial views, I noticed that, as you highlighted and pointed out, the parking for each trailer is, each mobile home, manufactured housing, is pretty much a double wide asphalt patch for each unit. Is overflow parking restricted there? If they have three automobiles, they have to park at the community lot down by the recreation, or you don't allow them to park on the grass, do you? It did not appear that was.
There's some overflow parking shown on the site plan, I believe.
I believe there is not. I thought it was in the upper right-hand corner.
Well, it just appears that nobody parks on the grass, and I want to make sure that is the case.
I think part of the conditions that I recall seeing from staff was there'd be no internal parking on the road.
On the street, but people all over Asheboro are prone to pull up in the yard, and we get a lot of complaints about that from neighbors, where somebody has 3 or 4 cars, and only their driveway will only accommodate a couple.
Right.
They pull up in the grass, and next thing you know, they've created bare spots in their yard, and they track the mud out in the street, and I just noticed it was very neat, and it didn't appear anybody was parking on the grass, and I
We
just
didn't go
wanted.
knock on everybody's door and say, hey, we're gonna be flying a video camera over you.
Well, I just
noticed,
want Mr. Van Cannon to just say that we do or we don't address that.
Well, so, there has been issues, by the name Corey Van Cannon, for everybody there. I have had issues in the past, but that's one thing, if you see on this new plan, I'm putting some little parking, pads on the streets.
Visitor parking.
Those would be like extra parking, visitor parking, and, yeah, I've got a lot of 2-bedroom, homes. So I'm a Clayton dealer as well. And anyway, so, it's not really a problem for those, but for the 3 bedrooms on the North Meadows that you see, they have to go to the recreation area and park on that part.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah.
You don't allow anybody to park on the
No,
grass?
no, but it does happen from time to time, and, it's something that, you know, if you have good management in place, you stay after it.
It
So,
appeared that was not a big issue.
Yeah, well, thank you, well, it's a management issue, so.
You don't see big rigs parked in front of the manufactured homes, tractor trailers.
Mr. Van Gannon, before you go, Mr. Gallimore alluded to it, but I just want to, I guess, get it on the record. Are you amenable to all the conditions that staff proposes
Yes,
relative to this?
yes.
Okay, is there anyone else in the room that would like to address the council on this request?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Can I make a statement? In my previous life, I had occasion to visit many manufactured home parks. And I've drove through this, and it's very good. It's the best probably I've ever seen, the way it's situated, and the amenities for the kids and the younger people were great.
Thank you, sir. One person. Mr. Murray, come on up, sir. And you'll need to print your name on that sign-up sheet, and that is strictly so that when we transcribe the tape, we spell your name correctly.
All right. My name is James Murray. I live on the west side of the park. I've been there probably 35 years now or so. And we've got a letter that I guess I should hand out to you guys. That letter is signed by 29 families that live along the road. I would first also like to say to Trevor and his staff downstairs have been very helpful in many ways on this, and I appreciate all that you guys did in answering our questions. I'm not a speaker, so I'm just going to read off what I just handed you. We would want to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to share our thoughts and concerns about the request from the North Meadows Manufactured Home Park to expand their existing park of approximately 200 spaces to 389. We desire this expansion to be denied. We have multiple questions and concerns we wish to discuss. The first is the number of homes requested on such a small acreage. Secondly, we already have an overwhelming traffic volume on this secondary road around the clock, which would increase even more with this proposed expansion. Our main question with this newly proposed site, will North Meadows Park remain as one park, or will it be two separate entities? It seems that if you plan on using the same office, clubhouse, manager, using existing amenities and overflow parking for the new site, interconnecting roads and the same owners. This is an expansion of North Meadows. Therefore, this newly proposed addition should adhere to, as the minimum, the special use permit already in place for North Meadows Park. To seek a different zoning classification within what appears to be an expansion of an existing park should not be allowed. In 1998, when the park was initially proposed and approved, we as neighbors tried to express that a mobile home park of approximately 200 spaces was not in harmony with the homes and the rural feel of what was existing. There was only approximately 30 homes at the time on the entire length of Hubmorse Road. Since that time, we have seen the park approved and an addition of 2 subdivisions. This is an increase of almost 400 homes and/or home sites in past years. Hubmorse Road is a secondary road already used as a cut-through from Highway 64 to Business 220. The addition of the current traffic is overwhelming with no upgrades to the road during these times of growth. If this type of high-density growth is allowed to continue, we believe our homes and livelihoods will continue to diminish in value. Suppose you allow an expansion of North Meadows. In that case, we firmly believe that the conditions of the previous special use permit already in place as a minimum standard should be continued and met. Some of the previous permit conditions with which we have concerns are along the frontage of Hubmorse Road in the areas indicated on the site plan, build a 6-foot-high berm with no more than 3% to 1 slope on any side. Install and maintain plantings that meet Type C buffer of 15-foot width, including proper ground cover. The park shall be redesigned to provide a 175-foot setback from Hubmorse Road. This setback shall apply to manufactured home units and their lots. Other required uses, accessory uses, and park amenities may be permitted in this setback area, subject to zoning regulations. Around the balance of the property, provide buffers as indicated on the approved site plan. Install and maintain plantings that meet Type C buffer of 15-foot width. And our concerns include that the previously set forth and approved conditions are no longer being met. Recently, the berm was replanted and it does not meet the current Type C buffer required. Therefore, we would request that the newly proposed road frontage meet the current Type C buffer, now 25 foot in width, with extensive plantings. We also ask the existing buffer along the road frontage be brought up to the standards outlined in the original special use permit. We also request a better defined use of the 175-foot setback from Hubmorse Road from the previous permit conditions. We would like to see the newly proposed setback to include natural areas and green space only with extensive plantings of trees and shrubs to be a natural screen from the road. Also, we request the 8-foot fencing that was required in the previous permit be extended along the south side of the newly proposed site from Hubmorse Road to the property line of the Asheboro City Water Treatment Plant. We also request the addition of another access entrance on Hubmorse Road be denied. Adding another high-volume entrance in a curved road section would increase the potential danger of accidents due to the lowered visibility of oncoming traffic. We feel the current entrance in the straighter section of the road is sufficient. I'd also just say, as far as that berm, originally when we were at this meeting in '98, it was our understanding that the berm would be elevated with a thick vegetation to pretty much take away the view of what's behind the berm. So it's kind of like what Franklin Village would be up in North Asheboro on Fayetteville Street. You don't even know there's a park there. But I'm not saying the berm that there's there now is not pretty, but it's not serving the purpose that it was intended to be from our original explanation. And so from my perspective, it seems that if we continue the 175-foot buffer on this new proposed area, if you agree to that if that was kept more in a vegetative manner where it's kind of still gives us a rural feel when we go down the road instead of looking off our shoulder and seeing almost 400 homes off, that would be appreciated. Have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the room that would like to address the council tonight? Come ahead, Ms. Bunkemeyer.
I'm Martha Jane Bunkemeyer. At least I've got enough space to write my name here. I have a letter I would like to present. I'll pass it then. Mr. Mayor and council members, I don't have a lawyer, I don't have a PowerPoint, but I am one of the people that has signed the letter that James Murray presented. My husband and I both have signed that. I wanted to make a point with the PowerPoint that one of the trailers they showed has been unoccupied for several years. It's not particularly in a trailer or a mobile home park. It just sits there and has been unoccupied. I do appreciate them showing our home place of the Bunkermeyers. It is over 200 years old, and it's the oldest house on the road. There are a lot of other houses that are, you know, nicer, more modern, but I appreciate that. This is my letter. Thank you for allowing me to express my concern for the mobile home park at 801 Hub Marsh Road to be increased to 187 more spaces. I'm Martha Jane Bunkermeyer, and my husband Willis Bunkermeyer have had our homes at 844 Hub Marsh Road and the Bunkermeyer home place at 906 Hub Marsh Road. For over 200 years, the Bunkermeyers, the Morris, the Canoys, and the Pritchards have owned property on both sides of Hub Marsh Road. When Willis and I were married in 1958, Hub Marsh Road was still a dirt road, and you can certainly see the changes made to this freeway over the 62 years. And I say freeway because the traffic is tremendous, especially at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. when the industrial parks is changing shifts. Over the past few years, not only has the industrial park been built on North Fayetteville Street, a townhouse development on Hub Marsh Road, and most recently, a new housing development off of Forest Park Drive. Most of this traffic is using Hub Marsh Road to either get to work or home. Also, it is a known fact that Hub Marsh Road is a cut-through from Highway 64 to 220 by taking Gold Hill Road and connecting to Hub Marsh Road and then to 220 or in reverse. I have no problem with an additional park. North Meadows is a well-managed park, and we have never experienced any problem related to the occupants living there. The most concerned I have is the additional 189 spaces and the existing 205 spaces, making a total of 394 spaces of homes. This would mean approximately 394 cars entering and exiting on Hub Marsh Road probably each day. And most people have 2 cars, so that would make a total of 780 cars trying to get onto Hub Marsh Road. And as I'm saying, to enter Hub Marsh Road, some of the drivers seem to think they are on Charlotte Motor Speedway by the speed that I have witnessed. By reviewing the proposed plan, there seems to be another driveway coming in and out of the lower part of the new park. I am quite concerned by the location of this entrance because it seems it is to be almost directly across from our driveway. Already, this is a dangerous curve where visibility is limited. So to put another entrance at that location would appear to be even more dangerous, unless you're planning to give us a stoplight at that crossing. Before this request is approved, I would like to call for a traffic study to be conducted for the entire 2-mile length of Hubmarsh Road in order to show if additional traffic would or would not be a hazardous. We certainly do not want to stop progress, but we are trying to keep present homeowners as safe as possible. And I noticed in their PowerPoint, if you noticed, there was traffic going by all the time. So as a homeowner, that's why I'm presenting this letter. Do you have any questions for me?
Questions? Thank you, Ms. Montclair.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address council?
Mr. Mayor, I don't, want to comment, not so much a question, about Ms. Bunkermeyer's presentation. I think there's a consensus, at least among the neighborhood and maybe even the developer. The second entrance that is shown on the PowerPoint there, I mean, we don't know what the DOT is gonna have a recommendation to say that, and that was requested in the Ms. Bunkermeyer, and it's been stipulated too by development council and condition that will have to be done. But with that entrance in the curve like they're talking about, I could feel pretty good about an emergency vehicle access entrance. They're already proposing it being a gated community as they go forward. It would be very simple for that gate to be just code operated by emergency personnel, similar as we've done on other developments. This is not a new thing. There's precedent for it. And it might even simplify conversation with the highway department. Also, you've got a 4-lane entrance going in there, 2 in, 2 out, so there's adequate space if there's blockage or road work or that sort of thing. I think it would make the highway department's job more straightforward. I won't say easier, if that were a consideration. That's just an opinion that I wanted to share, that I kind of agree with everybody's concern. I think there's a manageable solution to that could address all concern.
Any other comments or questions? I understand what Mr. Moffat's suggesting here, but I have a little further question to Mr. Marziano. Can that additional driveway entrance be pushed up to a little bit up the hill to a straighter section, or is there a reason it needs to be there?
It can be moved, Mr. Mayor. The requirement by DOT is you have a certain site distance length when you come out into a highway. And I did not measure it, I just did an aerial measurement on it. It's around 360 feet is required each direction. It's close. When they do the traffic impact analysis, I'm sure, as Mayor Pro Tem mentioned, DOT is gonna tell us what to do there. The only thing about moving it farther up the hill is that DOT may have a problem with how close we are to the other end.
Yeah, they want a separation. And my only reason for asking that question is, I'm concerned about it being directly across from the Bunkermeyer's driveway also.
We, had not originally intended to put one, so it was the emergency aspect of the, entrance was discussed, and that's why the gate is there. So, that's all the information we have in going through. The staff likes it. There's reasons for it and against it.
In reference to Mr. Moffat's comment, we did approve a subdivision or development at one point a few years back where they had a completely separate emergency entrance for fire and rescue vehicles.
Off the Mac Road's the most
Yeah,
prominent.
and it was actually gated and only, it may never have been used, but the purpose was to, be able to bypass anything that blocked the main entrance to the development. If there was a fire or
Probably
emergency.
60 feet wide. The main entrance is probably 60 feet wide.
Yeah. Well, as he said, it was 2 lanes in and 2 lanes out. Of course, we're also talking 700 cars.
Murphy's Law.
Well, the entrance to the Walmart, we built it too, and it's 2 lanes in and 2 lanes out, and that's 700 a minute.
True.
They have a stoplight, but it is 700 a minute.
Ms. Bunkermeyer, you have a question?
Yes, I had another question. I know that they're gonna do the study individually themselves by the traffic, but will the DOT take what study that they do and build off of that study, if that's an independent study by the owner, by the applicant?
The study that they will have commissioned is by a separate engineering firm, and it's done to DOT standards, and submitted on the DOT protocol. I mean, they're just the engineers that's providing the DOT required data.
That's another reason I won't do it.
Oh, okay, so they won't be doing that themselves?
No, they will
No,
not be doing
They
that.
will hire an engineering firm. Most of the engineers at that firm used to work for DOT.
Okay.
And it's the firm we used to do those studies.
The same firm we.
Would they ever consider a turning lane, you know, to be going into the main?
DOT could require that, based on the traffic count, the exit, the site distances and all. DOT, very often requires a center turn lane and what they call a deceleration lane and a acceleration lane. So,
What I'm wanting to try to, suggest, if not orchestrate, the DOT will, if has no consideration of the existing entrance, there's nothing they can legally force to change that where they're at now. They can have a lot to do with the entrance description here that's in that curve. And that's not a great place for a turning lane in that curve, you know, right there in front of y'all's house. If we make that an emergency entrance and request that DOT consider the primary entrance for this development to be at the existing primary entrance, I think you'll be much happier with the result.
there won't be any traffic in front of your house. I mean,
All the turning lane
In and
traffic will
out.
be stacked up and be in front, you know, and have adequate stacking room, as they call it, to going in and out of the existing big entrance. The gate, the emergency personnel will have the codes to the gate. They'll use that if something were to come up. But I think what I'd like to see happen is whatever DOT comes up with, it go back up in the appropriate place. This mechanism will allow them the ability to do that. It'll be part of the overall request. If you go there and simply ask for a driveway request for this driveway, then that's what they have to address. And I'm afraid you're gonna get something you might not be as happy with.
in the light of the emergency entrance, exit, there would be no traffic there except in the case of emergencies. And being some sort of emergency that might block the main entrance, like a big fire or a big wreck or something that emergency vehicles can't get in or out, they would have a secondary way to get in to fight a fire or attend to a heart attack victim or whatever medical emergency they might be responding to.
And then they won't be stacked up. You won't be dealing with those cars coming in and out of your driveway. And if you come out of your driveway and take a left, go to town, there'll be turning lanes there, so you'll be theoretically be able to drive straight through. They'll be stacking on the left, stacking in the center. So.
Oh, we deal with traffic all the time.
You do. It's a busy place.
I did notice,
Every day.
I did notice
And
the
our
view.
mailbox is across the street too, so you know, we have to really be careful going to our mailbox. But
Yep.
yeah, the whole Hubmarsh Road has just changed so much that we're trying to.
Especially since it was a dirt road when y'all built there.
That's a long time ago.
Willis may have to get off his dividends on direct deposit.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any other comments, council? Well, a lot depends on the traffic study. And also if you were to close that entrance and make an emergency entrance, takes more of the traffic study out of play.
Well, I think it gives the DOT the option to do the right thing here.
And Mr. Bell has already determined that the applicant agrees to all the conditions.
That's correct.
So, council?
Say something.
Well, I was going to just comment that, yeah, and the other entrance, like if you see, look at this,
Mr. Mayor, it'd really be better if we get people to come on up to the
Yeah,
podium so we can.
you need to come to the microphone so we can hear what you're saying, so the tape can hear what you're saying.
if, so the other entrance, and I don't know if everybody's been by the community or not, but it sits, it would sit like basically right where the, that key is. So it would be almost center, and it's to the whole, both communities together, you know, so, it's not like the other main entrance, is
Offset.
all the way to the north. So, and then also we have our mailboxes, our office, and a lot of people, you know, when they get home, from work, they're gonna go straight to the mailboxes. And that was the original plan, so.
I will add, not relative to that, I will add one more comment. I was sitting here when we approved this, not in this seat, but at this table, when we approved it.
The table was over there then.
Yeah, it's over there. And I remember, the berm, a lot of discussion on the berm, and it was one of our first attempts at a berm type, arrangement. This berm was never built the way we intended for it to be built. We expected it to be higher, taller, and, it was just a few truckloads of dirt dumped out there with some shrubbery stuck on it. It was not what we intended at the time. So, that's why we're more specific when we talk about a berm, how wide and how tall and whatnot. So, while your berm does actually look nice with the fence and the little shrubbery and all that, it doesn't do what we intended as a council for it to do. So take that advice, going forward, when you build the next berm.
That was you. I was working Monday nights then.
Yeah.
And I think I'm also gonna add those trees. We have some trees already there in front of the office, and it says 50 feet plus. I think they're 70 feet, so anyway, that's a good, blocking, tree, but anyway.
Okay, council, you've been given all the information, you have some tough decisions to make.
Can we add a condition, what, Z, or?
You can do about whatever you wanna do.
Well, conditional zoning does require that the owner is much more stringent than special use. This is not the special use permit. There has to be explicit agreement from the owner about that. So you cannot add a condition at this point without getting the involvement of the owner in that.
Is this not the appropriate time to do that?
That's the thing about conditional zoning. You got a proposal in front of you. We need to know what the owners have to have a chance to decide what they want to
Tell
do.
us what the condition is and we'll respond.
Well, I can't get council to quit advising me to do it.
Lay it out there for you.
I would add a sentence, if you will, to the condition without getting into the specifics of it, but to go with the emergency restricted use of the new interest shown on this plan. Let me find that. Where's the lettered list here? Condition is it's specific.
seeing, because there's a concern about a driveway, access in a curve there at Marsh Road.
All
just need
these
to-
that I'm seeing in here specifically refer to the interconnectivity of the existing roads with the new proposed roads.
Mr. Moffett, if
Would it
you,
be O2?
It might be down here in the,
It just says DOT permitting approval.
yeah.
Mr. Moffett, if I could, you may be able to incorporate some language into letter D, which does talk about the new roadway connecting to Hub Morris Road.
There it is.
You may
It's
be
in,
able to
I was focused on the numbers. Yeah,
add the emergency language there.
yeah. Add the language to item D. The new roadway connecting to Hub Marsh Road be accessed for emergency response only. And would the applicant be amenable to that?
Yes, we would.
Thank you.
And that would address your concern, Ms. Buckenmeyer, about the driveway right
They're
across the
concerned
street.
about their driveway.
Right.
And that been appropriately so.
Thank you very much.
But based on the amended, amendment of condition D, I would make a motion that, the proposal is consistent with the land use plan, consistent with the planning board and staff recommendation, and that we will approve the process, approve the application.
We have a motion by Mr. Moffett,
Second.
and we have a second by Mr. Bell. Any discussion?
I think the concern, as you expressed, Mayor, about the paying more attention to the proper design of the berm, I think may address Mr. Murray's concerns about the setback. That if we've got an effective berm that will cut that sight line down, that may help mitigate the concern about the setback. So it is an actual berm that will cut off the sight line.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion or comments? Okay, all in favor of approval, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Van you got a nice project up there, and I expect this one to be just as nice and just as well kept. We'll give you a minute just to, leave the room for. All right, Mr. Noel, 9C, consideration of a request for access and parking easement, trash easement, and temporary construction easement.
You seen her podcast? You travel with us?
Yes, oh, thank you.
Katie should listen to Willis about taking the stock instead of the $5,000 for the lawnmower advertising.
I think John's collected copies for you.
Hilarious.
Holly.
You just
Holly.
YouTube.
I think John's got a copy.
I got it. You remember paying 43 lawnmowers? This was back in the 60s. Instead of $5,000. We don't.
I got it. I got it.
Be worth like a $500,000 now.
It's right here.
What's that?
Yep, we're good, we're good. Thank you. All right, thank you, Mayor. This is item 9C. It is a consideration of a request for an access and parking easement, related easements for the Church Street Loft Apartments, which is proposed to happen right next door here. That project is continuing to progress. We are excited about that. The construction plans have been submitted to the city, and we are very close to issuing building permits for that development. One of the project challenges that was identified early in project scoping for those apartments was how handicap accessible parking and solid waste disposal services for those apartments would be provided. The site is very much constrained by street right-of-way, by city property, and by the railroad right-of-way. The city, as early advocates for this project, and when I say the city, the council expressed its willingness to work and find solutions with the development team for those apartments that would identify areas that were suitable for the necessary accessible parking, as well as an area that could be used to place a dumpster for the development. We have been working hard, and we believe we now have acceptable solutions for both the development team as well as a workable solution that would not impact municipal property. And I'll say many of you will recall that this project was one of 5 that was identified in the Central Business District redevelopment plan. And that, when I say the council pledged support to facilitate making this project happen, that is one of the ways we indicated that we would do so. In your packets is a proposed easement instrument as well as a survey map that would grant to Church Street Loft Apartment LLC an access and parking easement, trash easement, and a temporary construction easement for the benefit of the adjoining property. This, as I said, there is a survey that shows what is described on the ground within that easement. We have reviewed this proposal several times and have worked to get both parties satisfied. This has been endorsed by the Redevelopment Commission. This proposal has been through the Redevelopment Commission, who endorsed it on Monday. At the staff level, we recommend the granting of this easement and adoption of this by reference. I'll be happy to answer any questions. This is one of the, what we believe to be the final pieces in getting everything lined up so this project can begin.
You read it, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Didn't no need for me to.
It is a non-exclusive easement. So.
Okay. Questions? Well, that answered my question. Yeah.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve this.
Mayor, I move we approve the construction easement agreement and parking easement by reference.
Have a motion to approve by reference. May I have a second?
Second.
Second. Mr. Burks? Thank you, sir. Discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Nuttall. Well, let's see here. All right, Mr. Leonard, 10A is a resolution directing city clerk to investigate annexation petition for parcel of land at 1417 East Salisbury Street.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This is a property containing .679 acres, owned by Charles and Crystal Cold Iron. You have in your packets a resolution prepared by the city attorney that directs the city clerk to take the required actions, and staff recommends adoption of this resolution by reference.
A and B.
A first, and then two different motions.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution for annexation petition, investigate the annexation petition, item A, approval by reference. I'll entertain a motion for that.
Mayor, I move we adopt a resolution by reference to investigate the sufficiency of the petition.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. May I have a second? Second. Second, Mr. Swears. Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Item A is approved. I'll entertain a motion. Oh, you go right ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In anticipation of action of council, the city clerk has prepared a certification of sufficiency of the petition. In light of certification, you have in front of you a resolution prepared by the city attorney setting the public hearing date for the February 10th, 2022 city council meeting on the question of the requested annexation. Staff recommends adoption of this resolution by reference.
I'll entertain a motion to approve item B by reference.
Mayor, I move we adopt the resolution by reference setting the date for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Swears. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Mr. Leonard, item 11, you got some requests for items pertaining to capital improvements from McCray Ballpark.
Yes, sir. Item A, 11A, you have in your packet a bid tabulation and formal bids for the cast-in-place retaining wall, approximately 360 linear feet at McCray Ballpark were advertised and received at 2 p.m. on Tuesday, January 4th, 2022. Two bids were received. The lowest responsive bidder was Terry's Plumbing and Utilities, LLC of Asheboro, with a bid of $455,600. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Terry's Plumbing and Utilities of Asheboro.
Questions of Mr. Leonard?
Close bids.
The hill's gone?
Yeah, gotta build it now.
Said the hill is gone?
Yes.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
gone.
Gotta build it now.
Well, yeah, the hill is gone.
Yeah.
We might have to do a little more removal because the guys have to be able to work behind the wall. And
You have a confined space, you're gonna have 15 feet.
gonna have to cut the hill down a little bit more, and then once they get the wall built,
Put it back in.
do the backfill. This, I don't believe, covers the backfill.
No.
Okay, just the construction of the wall.
We would, city staff would cover that.
All right. May I have a motion to approve this?
Mayor, I move we approve the lowest responsive bid to Terry's Plumbing.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Motion by Mr. Bell, I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item B.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You also have in your packets a contract from Field Turf for the installation of the synthetic turf and the drainage as well at McCray Ballpark. This includes infield and outfield. This is through state contract. Keystone purchasing agreement. The purchase cost of the contract is $1,440,475, and staff recommends approval of this contract.
Gotta put that down too, because I think it's.
Yeah.
And we are, for the record, the city of Asheboro is a member of the Keystone Purchasing Network as envisioned by the general statutes.
Okay, questions? I entertain a motion regarding item B.
Mayor, I move that we approve the contract to KPN.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. May I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Heath, thank you. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Ms. Reeves, you're gonna tell us how to pay for this, aren't you?
In anticipation of approval of the two items that Mr. Leonard just presented, I have prepared budget amendments. One is an ordinance fund, and this one will provide the general portion of funding necessary that is to cover these costs. Using fund balance appropriation, we are requesting $341,000 of general fund to go towards the Field Turf USA contract of $1.4 million. We have $1.1 million in citizen contributions, which is a very large, a great start for this project. And of course, the city portion is a very small percentage of that. And then I'm requesting $456,000 to cover the retaining wall contract. I recommend adoption by reference. of the general fund ordinance to amend.
Question? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve item A, an ordinance to amend the general fund as presented by Ms. Reeves by reference.
Mayor, I move we approve the ordinance to amend the general fund by reference.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. May I have a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Burks. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Item A is approved.
The second item is an ordinance to amend the McCrary Baseball Improvements Fund. This amendment shows receipt of the citizen contributions directly into the fund and the receipt of the contributions from the general fund for the purposes of the field turf and the retaining wall, as well as provides for the expenditure of the field turf and the retaining wall, the construction of that. I recommend adoption by reference for the ordinance to amend the McCrary Baseball Park Improvement Fund.
Questions? Do I have a motion to approve item B, an ordinance to amend the McCrary Baseball Improvements Fund?
Well, we might as well spend it, Mayor.
Do what?
I said we might as well spend it. Mayor, I move we approve the ordinance by reference to amend the McCrary Baseball Park Improvements Fund.
Have a motion by Mr. Bell. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Burks. Discussion?
You've got that kind of donations, you don't have no choice.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Guys, somebody besides Clark needs to make a motion. All
I'll
right.
shut up.
He does such a good job of it, he's so efficient.
Well, he waits
Just gotta
about,
learn how you
he
do it,
waits
Lynn.
about 3 or 4 seconds to see if somebody else is going to.
I made a motion.
Maybe not from you.
Well, that's true.
You didn't make it, you can't make one.
All right, Mr. Leonard, you're gonna give us a Zoo City Sportsplex update.
Yes, sir. You have in your packets a progress report for the Zoo City Sportsplex, including a
Blue
map.
notebook binder.
So the Zoo City Sportsplex, I'm just gonna show you some photos first. This is, currently,
It's
as of
been
today.
spoiled now, we want drone footage.
I'll have to start working on that.
Click on them still.
This is as of today, so we've got grass, a good layer of grass out there in a lot of locations. Just showing you different, areas of the sportsplex. Parking, we've had some issues with the, rain over the past week, so it's a little muddy out there. This is the bank's starting to get, some good stabilization on it. This is looking at field, 6, from field 7. This is another look at the bank, and it includes, the retaining wall is complete in phase 1, looking down on field 3. This is the opposite side of that exact same, retaining wall, with another, U-shaped retaining wall below, and looking at field 3 as well. This is looking toward where the dog park is gonna be. And this is the beach volleyball court and parking area for that. The building, for the maintenance building is, underway. We're having issues with,
The
you
door?
can see that they've got a gate. The door got stolen, and, he's waiting for a new door. He's been waiting for about 12 weeks for the door now. But most of the building's about 95%. So I'll briefly hit on, the progress, with items completed, as you can see in the handout. The mass grading and rock removal for phases, 1 and 2 are complete. Installation of the retaining walls, for phases 1 and 2 are complete. Installation of the storm sewer, for phases 1 and 2 are complete. Installation for the water and sewer as well. Installation of underground electrical for phase one is complete. They are currently working on phase two. The base layer of stone is in place for the parking areas and the roads for phases one and two. Sand volleyball court, the base for them has been constructed. The stone for the pickleball courts, and the seating and slope stabilization is complete as well for phases one and two. Items that are still under construction, you'll know that we, last council meeting, you approved, construction of, the, additional buildings, concession and 2 restrooms. Footings are in for them. Block arrived this morning. They are planning on starting, laying block first thing Monday morning, weather permitting. Cause I think we're supposed to get some rain tonight. The maintenance building, as you see in the photo, is 95% complete. They're still having these supply chain issues, and as I said, some, stuff was stolen. Not only was the, door stolen, but the roofing for that building as well was stolen off-site. Installation of the underground electrical for phase two, has begun. The, contractor that's working for our EMC, has started and I think is, completed with, field 7 and 6, still has to get to fields, fields, 5 and 6 still has to get to fields 7 and 8. Installation of the field lighting, 1 and 2, this will probably be late spring, early summer for completion. They're having issues with supply chain. They're expecting partial delivery toward the end of March, beginning of April. Those are for those, large lighting poles.
We've had some on back order for a year.
Yeah.
For downtown Winston.
And they're hoping they'll be in there. There's no guarantees. We can't do any other work until those are done as far as, turf or anything like that, because they're gonna need to get on the field to actually do that work. The base is.
As Mr. Moffitt will just tell you, you can't put up a portion of a light.
That's right. And there's a significant footing that goes with those, so there's gonna be significant building, in the area, or digging in the area, as well. So they're gonna have to, wait until, those are complete and installed before we can actually do any turf, work with them. The installation of the street lights, for phase 1 and 2, street light poles are in. What they're wanting to do is kind of do it all at the same time with the same contractor, so they're just, stockpiling those on, off-site. Then overseeding, that can go into after construction, and then the large ADA compliant playground. Pending items that are not, allocated at this time, parking areas and, road, paving for phases 1 and 2. The stone's in place, but the paving, has not been, let yet. Field turf installation, phase 1, fields, 1 through 4, we're looking at fiscal year probably 22, 23, because of the lighting. Construction of, the Zoo Parkway, Old Cox Road roundabout. This is something that we're gonna be, meeting with the NCDOT about, probably in the coming months. Sidewalks and flat work throughout, the scoreboards, fencing and entrance gates, the walking trails, paving and netting for the fencing, paving, netting, and fencing for the pickleball courts, the dog park, and fencing, beach volleyball netting. I think that actually has been ordered by, facilities, so that, some of that stuff's already been ordered. Field turf installation phase 2, this would be, fields 5 through 8. We're looking at fiscal year, budgeting for fiscal year 23-24. Also the concession and restroom, building for phase 2, which is located in the center of that phase. Picnic shelters and final landscaping.
Is DOT gonna let the roundabout, or they gonna make you do it?
That's what we're working.
That's what we're wanting, that's what we're
You
wanting.
wanna know that too?
We hope to get some of this, infrastructure money that.
We're gonna turn into, as Lauren Green says, who pays?
Any question, of Michael.
Now, Mayor, we're self-performing a lot of this, unlike the McCray contract. We're simply, what you approved tonight is just inside the fence. Think about McCray Park, just inside the fence, the playing surface. We have a contract with construction manager at risk and architect. They'll do the outside the playing surface. So we'll have one methodology on one part and one methodology of management on the other.
Okay,
And this is this is for the councils to take, Mayor, so they can, as I mentioned, when you ride by the sportsplex, it's hard to see what's going on because most of the work is this way. Not like building a house where it goes this way. You can.
And I've had several people tell me that. They're like, nothing's going on. I said, just wait. Hang on, hang on.
I used to tell people to turn and drive into the top of the hill.
You'd be shocked.
But now since we've been having all this stuff stolen, I don't want anybody.
Right.
Yeah, you know.
Actually, some gates have been put up down there
Okay.
to prevent that.
Yeah, once you crest the top of that hill, there's plenty to see. It's amazing what has been done out there, but the light poles are sure putting us behind.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I didn't like hearing you say 2023.
Well, we'll be coming back to you in a couple of months, Mayor. We anticipate having the final ruling on the final rule of the use of the ARP funds. So we'll be reporting back to you, so we may have to, some of this stuff may be bookended other ways, but until then, that's our plan.
Just be glad you're dealing with Randolph Electric, because you're dealing with Duke.
Oh, we've had enough trouble dealing with Duke on North Street. And everywhere else we deal with.
Mayor, you just have a couple of things. It's time to update our council photos. I think, can you help us with that?
I think I know somebody at the college who
Yeah.
can help with that.
We would love
Yes.
with help with that.
Yes, as long as it can be fit in with a class assignment, which I've already asked about that, and it can be. So typically, once a semester, we'll do redo portraits for staff and faculty. And so I think we'll probably just be able to fit in with that.
I think mine's gonna need redoing too. I hate to take that dashing young gent down off the wall, but
I looked at mine the other day and my hair color's the wrong color.
you gotta quit painting ceilings.
And
I guess I'll have to get a haircut.
And the other thing, Mayor, at your packet, if you're elected, and I want to thank staff for re-elected to take the ethics training.
There's a deadline on that.
And that's, Joanne's got your, how you log in and how you take it. At the end of it, there'll be how you get your certificate that Holly has to have on record.
All right.
And you can
So,
do that at your house, or your office, or, we don't need to
Handout
have a
has
group
your
meeting to do
login
it.
code on it. You have to log in.
Yes.
Do you,
If they have,
You have actually 12 months from the time of the election.
Everybody got one?
What happens if it's been like 2 years?
It's so long as it's just from the last election. I'll stick with that,
All right.
that answer. And the only thing you're required to do is just make sure, take the course and let us have on file the certificate that you completed it.
I just
As
wish
I recall,
some
it's about an hour and a
agencies would
half.
recognize some of it.
no,
All right.
roughly.
Okay.
You'll have a little segment, then you answer some questions, then you.
Got anything,
Upcoming events.
where are they? There, come on, there you go. All right, Monday at 10 o'clock at the rec center, the Copperhead Baseball is gonna have a significant community announcement. And then, and would encourage you, if you can make it, to be over there for that. On the 17th is, with offices are closed for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and normally there's breakfast. Katie, are you expecting a gathering on the east side for King Day?
Nobody's.
They hadn't asked you to cook, so there's no reason to come.
Asked me to cook, and
Okay, well, they got a week.
They've not asked,
Week and a half, that's
they've
typical.
not asked me either.
Okay, so, may not be, but,
They may not plan to have it due to the COVID, I
yeah.
just don't know.
And the 28th is the Chamber Annual Meeting and Award Ceremony at Pinewood at 6:30. If you want to go, contact Joanne for tickets. Right, we have tickets.
Right.
Contact Joanne for tickets.
Hot item.
And ahead of time, now, don't wait till Thursday or Friday. I can't tell you how many times I've had to scramble around finding tickets. And on the 28th, well, through various dates in February, Driving Miss Daisy, a Rhino League production at Sunset Theater. And that's important to us because we are a major founding sponsor of Rhino League.
And that will be a popular production.
Yep. Okay, well, a little longer than normal tonight. You have at your place a calendar book and a pen from the Housing Authority. They just were not able to do their Christmas dinner this year like they had been, and hope to get back to that in the spring with their spring dinner joint meeting. So we'll start down here with Kelly.
It's great to see everybody after the holidays. Great to see Clark getting around so well after his surgery. And just to relate back to what Deputy Chief Cockman was talking about with the change in name, one of the highlights of the orientation that Bill and I did was to go to the fire department and see all that equipment. And it really gives a great measure of comfort to know that both the fire department and the police department are so well-equipped thanks to the decisions of council members. So, happy 2022.
Thank you. Mr. Swears.
Again, commend city staff for everything they do. I know in our morning walking routine, there was some debris across the sidewalk. I sent David Hutchins an email. Next day it was gone. So again, I appreciate the city staff and their attentiveness to concerns.
Mr. Bell?
We'll make the same comment. Seems like an hour after the storm came, it looked like it had come and gone, and you could hardly tell that it was here in the city. But happy Epiphany, everybody.
Yeah, there were quite a few trees down in the city. Oh, John?
Two things, Mayor. On your site plan, we had a little while ago, if you look down at the very bottom, there's two circles side by side. That's your new digester covers. That's what $2 million bought.
All right.
I put the dollar signs on it.
As Mr. Swear says, every time Mr. Roney comes to a councilman, it costs us $1 million.
$1 million. I would like them to
The other
digest
thing,
it.
Mayor, is, what Jane and I are asking for, out to Montana. So I promise every year when I go on vacation, I'm not gonna call back. Tammy and Holly will tell you, I take a day off, I always come to work. I can't do it this time. So I'm really this will not work in the national park, so. While I'm gone, if you need something, reach out to Debbie or Michael or Ollie, somebody, they'll be here.
Okay.
I'm just, the new year started off with an abundance of progress and good news. I trust this is the tip of the iceberg. I don't know how many tears I'll need, but as this Toyota plant keeps moving along, I mean, the activity in the contracting world is just a flurry. They have, be careful what you wish for. They've got the most outlandish schedules and expectations. You know, they got the checkbook back it up, so we'll see what happens. But then I think there'll be lots more development done. You know, no telling what that chip plant would bring if it were to show up. But exciting times. I feel like we're on the cusp of that.
Mr. Burks?
Somebody asked me the other day if the 64 bypass was working. I said, well, I think it is. And so today, I had, as far as taking traffic off of Dixie Drive, so today I had lunch at Kickback Jack's. I turned left out of Kickback Jack's onto Dixie Drive.
So it's working.
And it wasn't even close. I mean, there was nothing near me at all. I was thinking, it's working. So it's taking some of the traffic off of Dixie Drive. So I thought that was a great thing. Kudos to a young man named Chris Moss with Dauntless Machinery, who won the 200th Forged in Fire on History Channel's, on the History Channel Network. He made this awesome sword. It was on TV last night. I recorded and watched it early this morning because I was just tired of the news. So it was really cool. But he won that, and Asheboro was featured prominently because you go through the process, and then they send you back to your home forge. And they send him back, and he's talking about he's going back to Asheboro. Asheboro's on the screen. They've got his shop set up there. They showed he mentioned Asheboro by name. They showed our water tower with the All-America City logo on it. It was really cool. So we got a lot of free publicity for Forged in Fire.
The final two.
Yeah.
Went home to the home forge to make that one final thing. And
They didn't say anything about that guy in Arizona. They didn't show anything of his town. But they showed Asheboro prominently. It was pretty good.
That's cool.
That was pretty cool.
I'd
And
like
one
to see
other.
that. I did not know it was on last.
Well, come on to the house. I don't think I deleted it. I'm sure you get on there. And one other thing, somebody asked me, and they asked me again recently about bike racks in different places in the city for bicycles. And obviously, I've not been riding a bicycle, so I just assumed we had bike racks in different places, and I went around and we don't have any bike racks downtown or anywhere else. So downtown, out at Zoo City Sportsplex, be some good places to have some bicycle racks.
We do actually have one in Bicentennial Park over by the fountain, but it's under the tree and it's turned the wrong way.
Oh.
Nobody uses it.
Okay. Well, somebody wants to use
And
one.
we got one at the library.
Yeah, somebody wants to use one.
And the roundhouse is not full of bicycles like it used to be either.
So anyway, so that was a request that was made of me about bicycles.
If we can't put some.
And that's all I had.
Well, and we talked about putting one at the farmer's market at one time, and I don't think we ever got that done. But, yeah, we need a few bike racks around. Let me, oh, go ahead. No, I'll come back to my thought.
Okay, can you hold on to it a
Sure,
little bit?
I think.
That's
impressive. If I write it down.
In that line of healthiness and that sort of stuff, I get a lot of comments from people who wish that we had better signage informing people that pedestrians actually do have the right of way in a crosswalk, and that has been an issue with the downtown area, and that is something that I would love to consider. And there are a couple of opportunities to come together as a community. I believe on Sunday, in front of the fire department, there will be a vigil for one of the firefighters who is battling COVID and is in danger of that battle. And there's also, if you check on Facebook, there will be a vigil or a prayer meeting at the monument. I believe the Sunday before Martin Luther King, and I don't know the time, to pray for.
2 o'clock. And this Sunday at the fire station, what time?
So I believe at 5 is what I thought I saw.
All right.
Mayor, before we leave that, all of us on this side of the dais know we're talking about, his family would appreciate all the thoughts and prayers.
Yep.
We can't say anything other than that for the HIPAA requirements.
And it's just not good. Bill?
He mentioned bicycle racks. There used to be a really nice bicycle rack in front of the Quarry Rec Center, right there where the pool is.
It got stolen.
I remember I used to use it. That's why I remember that.
When we were growing up, there was a big bike rack right there.
Yeah, I remember
We
that.
probably, or McCurry probably sold it. For surplus or something.
Also, I kind of mundane things, but I always want to praise the leaf picker upper in Asheboro. I got a cul-de-sac, this curb and gutter man. He keeps those gutters just clean. It looks nice. I appreciate that a lot. Also, I was not aware that someone had gave, what, a 1.1 million, or some people had gave 1.1 million for Macquarie. Whoever has done that, I say thank you very much. That's great. Appreciate doing
At
that.
some point, we may be able to make that
Like a
public,
non-position.
but they would prefer at this point that it not be not
Okay.
the public.
Well, tell them thanks, that was great. I was not aware of that.
It was actually 2 gifts.
2 years. Okay,
Yeah.
good.
But there
And
is gonna be a fundraising campaign, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there's gonna
After we
be,
get this part done.
got it,
you wanna
okay.
write the check?
Of course.
Yeah,
That's not the
we need to, we are currently, John and I have had conversation about the upcoming campaign that we want to kick off at the appropriate time. If you have names of people that you believe are worthy of our list, or somebody we need to put on our list to contact for gifts. I mean, anybody, just get those names to John or myself. We're compiling a list now, and, we have promised the donors that we've had that there will be a public campaign. And we have one major donor that is waiting to see how much we raise before he writes his check. So, and
far it's
this is-
That's where you get started, though.
5
Yes.
contributions. You said
5,
2.
we've had 5, okay.
You said 2.
I was thinking about the 1.1,
Yeah.
that's 2.
No, that 1.1 is 5.
Yeah, we got it, we got it.
Come on, Davey.
This might be accurate.
So we got it.
Sorry.
You're right.
But we
Both
always
of you were
praise you
right.
for it, right?
It's 1.1 million.
1.1 is 2.
5 people, 1 gift.
I understand.
Yes.
I'm
5
sorry.
people, 1 gift.
Oh, yeah, all right. I wasn't counting them as 5 people.
Yeah, I
4
know.
people.
We know what you were. Yeah.
All right. I've been contacted, by somebody that does these bird scooters and wanting to put bird scooters in Asheboro. And
Them little old credit card things?
Yes.
yeah,
Lord have mercy. Winston says over there at the hall, you can't walk them things straight all over the sidewalk.
well, I've
They hate
ignored the
them things
guy.
once they got
The
there.
guy's contacted me twice or 3 times. Has he called you yet?
Oh, yes, sir.
And I'll let you take care of it.
We
But
just don't, at this point, think there's the demand.
I've ignored him because I didn't think Asheboro was ready for it or had the demand for
I
it.
don't think he's ready for Asheboro to have it.
And well, quite frankly, I don't either.
I know
think-
what's gonna happen here.
But
They're gonna
I
do
just
everything
wanted to
wrong.
make sure that you guys
We're
kinda
aware of it.
were on board with not pursuing bird scooters.
It'll be up to we've communicated to that salesman that if they're interested in it, they should come down here and talk to the planning department and get a street map and all that. We just can't on the phone say, yes, a great idea, go stick them out there.
Oh, well, you know, that wasn't gonna, his.
We don't have any bike
request- His request to me was, who did he need to talk to? And I didn't even respond.
And they don't
to that.
end up back in those scooter racks.
No.
Yeah, well, the hoverboard fella has almost gotten hit twice by my family, much less if we got him all over town, so.
I just don't think Asheboro's got demand for it.
That's a good idea going astray. We don't
Dark
have
urban idea. Dark
All right, nothing else, I will call this meeting adjourned.
We came within
I've got
5
the.
feet.
He's got a headset here quicker than I thought we would.
You can't hear it.
Yeah.
You can't hear it.